Emma, thank you for joining us. Live Like a Unicorn was a story when you guys applied to be on the show that instantly touched me, touched Evan and the people that work for us. Years ago, I was telling you briefly before we started, we supported an organization called Jason's Dreams for Kids. Dennis and his wife did a great job in supporting that. They were an offshoot, essentially, I think, off of Francis Foundation. And when the families would come in, after we played a round of golf, and they would tell their story, a kid that they were helping, almost like a My Wish Foundation on a local level, it really touched me, and I had a lot of empathy. And a lot of people would probably say that Ryan doesn't have a lot of empathy, and I don't for certain shit. But your story instantly touched me. Honored to have you here, and I promise you I'm going to help blow this up. So let's dive a little bit into your story and your daughter's story and your family's story.
All right.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be able to kind of share our story and how everything began. So I grew up in North Jersey. I met my husband, who grew up in Monmouth County at Rutgers University. We got married and had 2 beautiful kids. So my daughter, Olivia.
How old were you?
When I got married?
Yes.
I think I was 28.
28.
Yeah, 28, but I met him when I was 18. So like, I was like, are we doing this
Long
or
time,
what?
yeah.
After hanging around for 10 years.
Yeah.
So I was 28. We were living out near Princeton at the time. I got pregnant right away with our daughter, Olivia. She was born February 2011. And then 2 years later, our son Jack came along, who was a pain to give birth to and has been a pain ever since.
They say that's how it works.
I think that's how it works, right? The second one always like gives you gray hair. And everything was pretty good. We decided to move back to Monmouth County, where my husband grew up. And in 2019...
And you guys are in Freehold, right?
We're in Freehold. Mm-hmm. My daughter Liv started complaining about her shoulder. We had taken her snowboarding a couple weeks prior and thought that she had just fallen, maybe pulled something, brought her to the walk-in. They were like, it's just a sprain, don't worry about it. For 2 weeks, she was up every night screaming in pain. It was getting worse and worse and worse. I was taking her back and forth to doctors, couldn't figure it out. And finally, I just had that mother's intuition, and I was like, something is not right.
This kid's in pain.
She's in pain, and she's getting worse, not better. So we put her in the car, and we drove her to the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. And at first, they thought it could be like a nerve issue. They brought her in for an MRI, and they happened to catch a tiny piece of her spinal cord on the MRI, and they found a tumor.
And that was on her spine, not on her brain.
It was inside of her spinal cord, which is the rarest of the rare.
Yeah, and what is the percentage? We talked about it earlier.
It's 0.005% chance of having a spinal cord tumor.
So for people who's not big on math, that's super rare.
That's super, super, super rare.
So for example, like in a 5-year time span, how many kids, just to put a number amount on it, run into something like that?
I would say, okay, so...
And is it just in kids, or is it in adults?
I mean, adults and kids can all have spinal cord tumors, but Liv was admitted for surgery, and you really grade tumors based on the pathology and what mutations are in it. So she was admitted, had surgery that 2 days later, so it was right after her 8th birthday, and she was in surgery for 14 hours. My husband and I, it was like one of those bad movies. We were just sitting in the waiting room seeing people like come in and out and in and out, and we were there until the lights were turned off, and we were actually like locked in the room. The surgeon said, I'm not really sure, we have to wait for the pathology. Got it back on my husband's birthday. It was stage 4 with one of the most aggressive mutations that they have in pediatric cancer. It's called H3.3K27M. So it's found a lot in another kind of pediatric cancer called DIPG. And about 400 kids a year are diagnosed with that, and there's a less than 1% survival rate for that kind of cancer.
Now diagnosed with that level of pediatric cancer,
yeah.
or that spinal issue
So with that mutation of pediatric cancer.
of the cancer, and that could be anywhere in the body.
Yep, so
But
a lot
still,
of them are in the brain.
Even super rare, 400.
It's super, super rare.
Yeah.
But extremely aggressive, and there are 0 treatment options except clinical trials. So we got her diagnosis. We were obviously, it was like, that's our line in the sand, right? We got that, and our whole life was before that and then after that.
So let's just pull it back, and you gave us a lot of color on what was going on in your life at the time. What was going on from the perspective, in your eyes, in your daughter's life? How was she interpreting this, and how did this all unfold in a sense of live like a unicorn?
So at first, we didn't tell her that she had cancer because I couldn't absorb
how could you?
it. So
Yeah.
how can you talk to your children about a topic that you can't even
For me, I almost feel like
absorb?
maybe I'm a bad person, and you can give me some. I feel like maybe I just lie.
So there were definitely times that I was like, do we tell her? Do we not tell her? What do we say? So we said there was something growing inside your body and it's not supposed to be there, and we're gonna figure it out. But strangely enough, I have a friend that's a pediatric oncologist, and I called her after Liv was diagnosed, and I was crying, and I was, saying, how am I gonna tell her? How do you tell your 8-year-old that was in perfect health, that's supposed to have a whole life ahead of her, that she has cancer? And she said, think about the places that you will be going for her treatment. There will be kids with no hair. There will be the word cancer everywhere. As her parent, you've got to have the tough conversation. So we did. We sat her down and we said, you have a kind of cancer, and we're going to try and help you, but there's not a lot of medicine right now. And, we talked a little bit about how there's no money in pediatric cancer. So
You're super strong coming here and talking about this, but I have to, what was you and your husband's, what were you going through at that point? Obviously it's a tough conversation.
So I think you're in shock. And I think that I kind of felt like nothing hit me. I was watching myself like I was in a movie, because I think that, especially as a parent, you go into protection mode and you can't even go.
You're hyper-focused.
Yeah, you've got to, I've always been the kind of person that I'm like, how do we fix it? What can we do
There's
to make it
solutions
better?
to this. There's solutions to this.
And we are solution-oriented people, and we've always, my husband and I are a team, and we always try and come together and figure it out. And we threw ourselves into the intellectual researching, let's find a clinical trial, let's find someone to help her. We didn't have time to sit.
Yeah, you took action.
Feel sorry for ourselves. I mean, let me tell you, there are days now that I definitely do, and there were times that we kind of had to pick each other back up, but we came up with a rule that we weren't allowed to have breakdowns at the same time. So if I was losing it, he was the strong one in taking care of stuff, and vice versa. We just said, we have to stay strong, because you can't scare your kids.
Yeah.
You can't let your kids see you fall
And you
apart.
have another kid. You have a son.
And he was 6 at the time. He was in kindergarten. And
How
for
was
him,
he taking it?
he didn't understand
Yeah.
at all. He didn't get it. He had never had anyone with a terminal illness. He had never had anyone
6.
die.
Yeah,
He had never experienced anyone that he was close to dying. We didn't tell him at first the diagnosis. And he was really more concerned with going on his iPad, honestly.
yeah.
He just didn't get it.
Now, do you see in him, not to be too personal, but do you see in him a few years later that he's like, where's my sister? Right? Where's Olivia?
So we lost Liv November 2019, and the pandemic hit March 2020. I remember it because my son's birthday is March 23rd, and I remember panicking trying to get him a birthday cake because he had just lost his sister and
Yeah.
the world was shutting down. For us, the pandemic was one of the best things that could have happened, because it forced us to grieve. It forced us to have no distractions. We did the work.
Yeah.
We gave him all of the attention that he had been lacking, because when his sister was sick, he was at one person's house, a grandparent was coming, he was shuffled somewhere else. Like, we really didn't see him for 9 months.
Yeah.
While she was sick.
And this is the stuff that I want people to be impacted by, and hope that they support your foundation, because the things that people go through as a family when someone is sick at any age, but especially when you have young kids, it's fucking hard.
It's awful.
It's hard. Like I feel like I'm a mentally tough guy, but that may I feel like I'll never give up, but that may get close to beating me down. And I want people to know what families go through, and again, your strength to come on this show and have me ask you these questions is, a tribute to you and your family. So,
thank you.
Kudos to you.
I think your story is powerful, right? Because if I didn't share my story, you wouldn't know what these families go through.
I definitely wouldn't
Many
know.
people wouldn't, And I think that I always said after we lost Liv, it will not be in vain. And her life and the legacy that she has built, even if I just help one person and teach one person about pediatric cancer and help one family that's struggling to pay her bills, like, that's what it's about.
And you're helping way more than that. So I want to get back to the story a little bit, and I tend to jump around. So you guys have the diagnosis. You're helping her, battle this. You're being as positive as you can. You're at NYU. I'm sure you're at many different, doctor's appointments. You're running around. When did it come to fruition that Olivia said, I want to help other kids, where you guys went and did this clothing drive?
So it was this summer that she was sick, and she was actually doing pretty well. She was on a clinical trial that was helping. She had finished radiation. We had come back from Disney, and she said, well, what can I do? Like, how can we help other kids? So, we talked about how people start foundations and how you can raise money and, help with certain things. And she was like every other little 8-year-old girl and obsessed with unicorns. It was unicorns everywhere. Her room, her clothing, everything was covered. And she said, okay, it's going to be called Live Like a Unicorn. And I said, okay. So let's do something. So she had done travel soccer, and we had done a clothing drive, and she raised, a few $100s for the team. She was like, let's try and do that. So I said, sure. So she got some friends together. They did a bake sale. They had sold some bracelets, and they ended up filling 6 trucks. Our whole town came out. It was amazing, and she raised $10,000.
And your town, again, Freehold.
Freehold, yeah.
Freehold came around a family that was struggling and helped raise 10 grand.
10 grand we raised in one day.
That's amazing.
It was unbelievable.
Did she know the impact at that age of what type of money that was?
I don't know, right? Because I think even at that age, like $100 seems like a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's changing a little bit now.
I could buy a lot of unicorns.
Exactly. So like 100, but I mean, I remember her telling her oncologist when we went into the city, and her oncologist is this amazing woman named Dr. Sharon Gardner out of NYU, and she has dedicated her whole life to this.
Sharon or Shannon?
Sharon.
Sharon Gardner.
Sharon Gardner.
Shout out to Sharon Gardner.
Sharon Gardner out of NYU, and she came in the room and said, so Liv, how was your fundraiser? And Liv had brought them all bracelets and told them about it the week prior. And Liv goes, we did really well. And the doctor stood there and said, oh, like, did you make $500 or like $1,000? And Liv goes, no, we made $10,000. And her doctor was like
shocked,
blown away. But Liv definitely had like my determination too.
She was driven.
She was driven and wanted to make it a success.
And at that point, did you create an actual 501c?
So I didn't do that. Actually, Liv was on hospice at NYU for 6 weeks before she passed, and her wish was to make it official. So we would be in NYU, and she would be laying in her hospital bed and saying, Mom, did you do my paperwork? Are we official yet?
How
Did
does
you do
she
it
know
yet?
that? How does she know
Well,
that?
I would tell her, like, it's not official yet. Mommy has to file papers and whatever.
But how did she know official? Like, well, like,
because
I know you could say it, but like, still, like, a kid to come
She-
back to saying, is this official? Like, That is like, it gives me goosebumps. Like, that's
She was a
something fucking
very
real.
old soul, but I think that deep down she knew that she was dying, and I think that she knew that I needed something.
Like, she was trying to help you at like such a young age. How crazy is that?
She was the most, and everyone, like I would go to her parent-teacher conferences, and they were like, she's the kid that when someone's by themselves, like she goes and sits with them.
Trying to help them.
She's the kid that like, if someone's making fun of someone else, like she'll stick up for them. The kid that's bullying her, she'll still be nice to them. Like
She's
she
tough like
was
her mom.
just, she was so empathetic though.
Yeah.
That like, I think it's such a hard trait to teach kids.
Life is hard. Life is
It
makes you
is,
cold.
right? But to know that like at such a young age, she had that, and she had something in her that she really just wanted to help other people, like
Special.
all the time.
Yeah, that's really incredible. And again, I don't just say it. It gives me chills. And you should be proud because
Thank
her
you.
parents help instill that in her. And yeah, that some of that is natural and genetic, but you know, kudos to you guys as parents. So as you guys walk through this 6 weeks of obviously just absolute, you know, in my words, horror. You know, it's just like I would probably be angry.
Well, it was
I go to
awful.
emotion of anger.
Yeah, and you are literally sitting there waiting for your kid to die. And
Yeah.
like some days you're like, God, I want to get out of this hospital. And then you're thinking, what am I wishing?
Yeah.
Because once we leave, like she's not going to be with us.
And at that point, you knew that, you know, it's over for her. It's
The
it's 6
doctors
weeks.
pulled us into a room, Dr. Gardner, and my husband wasn't ready. And we were finding like a last-ditch effort of medication. And I remember it was like 2 weeks into staying at the hospital, and she just said, guys, we had told her our wishes in the beginning. I never wanted her to be a vegetable. I never wanted her to
Prolonged
just have to
suffer.
lay in bed. She was active literally, even when she was in the hospital, when she was dying. She wasn't able to walk on her own, but she was up doing crafts, playing games for the last 4 weeks of her life. Like, we never wanted her to get to a point where who wants to live like that?
Yeah.
Nobody. And selfishly, I would have wanted to keep her forever, right? But I think we
naturally
looked-
that's what all human behavior does, right?
Right, but then you have to think of like the unselfish thing, right?
Yeah.
And
the
think
hard
about,
thing, the hard thing is the right thing.
Yeah. Always, right?
Yeah.
And we said in the beginning, like, we never wanted her to suffer, just for
And
us.
this was at NYU the last
This was
6
at
weeks.
NYU, was her last,
So, as the story moves along, your daughter, beautiful Olivia, unfortunately passes away. At that point, you guys, you told me a story again quickly before, walk downstairs.
So
now, unfortunately, your daughter passes away. You walk downstairs, you have a parking bill. And these are the things that people don't realize that
Yep.
families are going through as they're going through, again, this horrific event in their life where their kid has cancer.
can you imagine? And you go downstairs, we put in our ticket, and it was $3,000 almost.
For who I am, and again, not being, you know, somebody, like, I'd want to punch someone in the face. That would be my first emotion for me. Like, what? Like, send me that bill a month from now
Right?
when I grieve. You guys walk downstairs, you put your card in, you owe $3,000.
Yep.
Like, what were you thinking in that moment?
And that's what, I mean, we were like numb. I think my husband just put in the credit card and was like, we got home and don't even remember driving through New York to get home.
You guys get that bill, $3,000. I'm sure your medical bills were adding up. Unfortunately, your daughter just passes. You have to bury your kid now. Just for the impact of the people who are viewing this, to know what you and your family went through, because I want to raise money. Let's raise money for this family, for this organization. Tell us just, again, you don't have to go crazy personal. Tell us about that time in your life when you had to put your daughter in a grave.
How do you, right, survive it? It was basically, someone told me after she was diagnosed that you will live this journey day by day. And at that point, we were living our life hour by hour. But again, my son then at that point was 7 when she passed.
Yeah, you have another kid to raise.
I had little eyes looking at me.
Yeah.
I had little eyes watching me to figure out.
They aren't little eyes, they're wide eyes.
Exactly,
They're taking
right?
it all in.
And I had to be strong for him, and I had to be strong for my husband, and I had to show him that we can find grit through grief, and we can pick ourselves back up,
Grit
and we
through
can
grief.
find a way. It's going to be a different life than what we had before, but we have to find a way to move on.
Yeah, you have to.
You have to, because what's my other choice?
No matter what happens to you in life, we're talking about unfortunate events with, a child with, cancer, but anything that happens to you in life, and that's what this podcast is about. Here's a nugget. Anything that has happened to you in your life, and again, I'm so glad that you came on, and that is a great point that you just made. No matter what has happened to you, it's done, it's over, it may be horrific. You need to cut it out of your head and move on, because you still have so many years ahead of you. And what leadership that you had, and women are so much stronger than us. Like, we were soft. Like, I get it. Like, I can only imagine Brian just, that's his baby girl that he just buried, and just being defeated. Like, as a male, we're masculine, we're alpha males. Like, we're gonna do it. We're gonna destroy it. We're gonna kill it. We're gonna get it done.
Right.
That's our mentality.
Yeah.
And to have the leadership and toughness from your position as the mom and the wife.
And listen, there are days still, even now, we're coming up to 3 years this winter, that I don't want to get out of bed. I want to feel sorry for myself. I want to pull the covers over. And I can't, because I've got a son to raise, I've got a husband, I've got a house, and I have a life. And what purpose would Liv's life have been if I throw mine away?
Which is, is a great segue to what Live Like a Unicorn is doing, the events that you're doing, how you're raising money, things you're doing for families. I want to jump into that. And I want Olivia to know that Ryan Robbins has her back. And I mean that. I fucking mean that from the heart.
That's amazing.
I'm telling you, look at my eyes. I mean that. Your story is touching, and I want people to know that I can cry, but I do cry once in a while. How do we raise money? What are you guys doing? What's your top events? What's your top fundraisers?
Honestly, we started January 2020, and COVID hit right after. So I feel like this is really our first year of figuring out events and figuring out what we're doing. Everything was grassroots. It was hustling, selling T-shirts. It was doing different online challenges. The first year we did a little over 120,000, and it was just that. I had some girlfriends that joined the board, and we just hustled. We were writing to people. We were
What are some of your
emails.
girlfriends' names that are helping you out? Let's give them a shout out.
So my girlfriend with me now is Christina, and she's
a rock, I could tell. Shout out to Christina.
She is my rock. She's like my right hand. We said that eventually we'll ditch our husbands and live in an old retirement community, just us and a bunch of dogs.
Yeah.
I've got
Sounds a little weird. I won't say anything about it. But I did see how she loved Hudson.
See? I told you. We recently have another board member that I met through this community. She lost her daughter, Kendall, it was a year ago, actually, last week. Her story was even more tragic. It was about 2 months from diagnosis to death.
Holy shit.
She has joined our board now.
Wow.
And it's honestly a bunch of moms that are just trying to kill it.
Yeah.
So we do a couple of different things to support the pediatric brain tumor community and pediatric cancer community. We support research. So we just did a $50,000 check actually this past weekend to the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia.
God bless you.
So it's we're now at about $450,000 that we've done in medical research grant funding.
And that's in 2 years.
That's in 2 years.
2 years, your revs was $450, and you donated all revs.
Yep.
Not one bit anybody got paid, took a
Nobody
paycheck.
takes a salary. Nobody gets paid except our accountant, because
the
that's
fucking accountants
way above my pay grade.
They always get paid. Those son of a bitches.
Right? So we do that. We do family assistance checks for anyone that's family is going through.
Now let's talk about that a little bit, because I know the foundations, especially the big ones, and people need to realize, donate to the small ones. If you haven't watched the last 6 years of this country, corporations, foundations, they don't give a shit about us. Support local. Support people you know that you trust and they're actually having a local impact.
And you can look at people's financials. You can go on and search whatever foundation,
You
search
have to.
their
It's public.
990.
It's 501c.
It's public.
Yeah.
You can see what the bigwigs are making and what they're getting paid and how much money is going to their mission versus how much money is going to the executives.
So talk about family assistance. Typically you have to apply to have something like that. You guys send it into us. We don't care what you're using it for. Go to Charlie's, get Grubhub, whatever you need to do for your family. Here's a check for $1,000, no questions asked.
No questions asked. They just have to show a diagnosis, and we give them a blanket grant to pay for whatever they need. So we had a family that came that wrote to me, and she was a teacher. She got laid off. They didn't renew her contract. She was on contract, and her husband, with the pandemic, had to close his company, and they're on Cobra now, and their daughter's fighting brain cancer. So we just gave them a blanket check, and they're using it to pay for their Cobra. But other families, they need it for...
Now you're helping them pay monthly for their Cobra?
We gave them a blanket check for the year. So
Wow.
we had another family who had...
People don't realize Cobra on a teacher's health insurance. I know that most people don't realize Cobra, you're paying 75% of the premium.
Yep.
That premium as a teacher is hefty for a family.
Yeah. And there are so many families like that. I was fortunate when Liv got sick. I was already a stay-at-home mom. Many families, right? Both parents work. Somebody's got to leave their job to take care of your child because you're in physical therapy, occupational therapy, radiation treatments, clinic visits. It's non-stop, full time. And we were lucky, and we had a really supportive community that fundraised for us, but not everyone has that.
Yeah.
So
Not everybody has the strength to even go ask for it.
my husband especially is a very independent person, and
It hurts your pride as a male.
it does, but at the end of the day, I think he looked at his baby girl and he was like, you know what?
Swallow my pride.
If I can spend more time with her, then that's what we're gonna do. If we can take her to Disney, if we can, get her, go to the American Girl store and go crazy, that's what we're gonna do for her.
Yeah, I want to see her happy. I want to see her smiling, and wow, that's just. And again, I told you the Chasing Dreams for Kids. These stories came in after we played a round of golf and had a few beers. It was just so impactful to see what they were doing as a small organization with Jason's Dreams for Kids, helping these families go to a Giants game, go to Disney. These things, are everything if you're losing your child.
Yeah, and think about it, right? You get this diagnosis, you have all these bills piling up, and you don't want to take the money that's for all your medical bills and for your house and go on vacation or go to Disney. That's why these smaller organizations are so important.
Yeah, and you discovered how quickly the lack thereof help that was out there.
It's unbelievable. So the NCI...
And the greatest country in the world.
The NCI gives less than 4% of funding to pediatric cancer.
And describe what that is for people
The
who might
National
not.
Cancer Institute, so the governmental run cancer to help everyone, right? They give less than 4% of their budget to pediatric cancer.
That's a bunch of bullshit.
That, less than 1% goes to pediatric brain tumors,
Probably
which
goes to
is,
Ukraine. Probably somewhere in Ukraine.
which is now the #1 cause of death by disease in children. So Americans spend
So what the hell are
more-
they doing with the rest of the percentage?
It's all to adult cancers. So Americans spend more in Starbucks in 3 days than the government does in a whole year for pediatric cancer, which is
so crazy.
insane. So we're losing. I mean, we've already lost.
Is the let's break that down for a minute, right? I'm a critical thinker. Is it because that's paying pharma and the hospitalization system more money at the adult level, and the kids are...
I think it's more, people don't want to touch kids, right? Imagine you run a clinical trial, pharmaceutical company or hospital, whatever. There's no money in kids, and the numbers
That's what I mean. Do you think the money is what drives it? Or
I think the numbers aren't there compared to adult cancers, right? So there's so much more people being diagnosed, right, with breast cancer or with lymphoma.
So, and thinking about things in volume, it's just obviously more adults have cancer.
Yeah.
Obviously.
More adults have cancer, but then when you think about it, my daughter lost 77 years of her life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And someone, I don't know, say with colon cancer in their 60s, 70s, they're losing, 15 years? 10 years?
Yeah.
We're not putting money into the future of our country, right?
Yeah.
There are kids dying.
We can't get formula, let alone kids' cancer
right?
research.
In the past month and a half, we lost 2 kids that we support in the foundation. 2
Very
kids.
sorry to hear that.
In a month and a half, 2 kids. One was 4. I have the youngest child that we support right now is 8 months old fighting brain cancer. Can you imagine? You just had a baby.
Yeah, I can't.
8-month-old baby.
No, I can't.
We've got over.
I look in my daughter's eyes, and I like, Kelly, you think your eyes are good? And she's like, Ryan, you're kind of crazy. Like, stop. And like, because I've heard these stories. Like, that is a huge, like, take me out. Like, I don't want to die. I want to see my kids live, but like, take me out. Don't take my kids out.
And that's right. You never think I never thought it was gonna happen to me. I used to lay in bed with my husband on like a Saturday before we had kids, and the St. Jude's commercials would come on, and I would be like, oh, those poor families. And I would sit and I would cry, and he'd be like, why are you watching that? It's so sad. And I'm like, I can't believe. And then it turned out to be us. No one ever thinks it's gonna happen to you until it does.
It's so crazy. So let's try to point this towards, again, how we help the organization raise money.
So we have a bunch of events planned for the next couple of months. We have...
Give us your first one that you have planned next.
So we have something called Christmas in July, which we did last year. And we are always looking for corporate
I love saying I love Christmas. I'm in.
So we're always looking for corporate sponsors to come out and help us. We invite all of the local families that we support. So we've got 25 in New Jersey.
And what are you doing? Describe the event.
So the kids come. We do pictures and a special visit with Santa. Santa has gifts for all the kids. We have crafts. We have games. We have food.
And where is this at?
It's actually an amazing business. Stepped up to help us yet again this year in Ellen's Tree Farm in Manalapan.
They are awesome.
They hosted us last year, and they're doing it again.
That thing they have going on is beautiful. I have a friend, Trevor West. You may have seen him on a podcast. He worked there when he was a young kid.
Yep.
That is a great place.
Let me tell you. So we came up with this crazy idea last year. We were like, you know what? So many of the hospitals are down with their toy donations in the summer, and kids are still
sick.
Kids are still sick in the summer. No one thinks about it. Everyone's like, let's do a toy drive for Christmas. But nobody ever thinks that there are kids that are sick in the hospital during the summertime, right? Because everyone's too busy like going to the beach or like having drinks by the pool or whatever, right? So it started with the idea of like, let's do this huge toy drive and stock as many hospitals as we can. Because we work really closely with St. Peter's, Robert Wood Johnson. We support 15 hospitals throughout New Jersey and New York. And they always say we're empty. Like this time last year, St. Peter's called us.
But I heard that with COVID that like they weren't accepting toys.
They weren't, and so they didn't have their surplus, and now they are, and now they're empty. And especially now with COVID, so when Liv was sick, they had music therapy, art therapy. They had, I don't know, like a botanist that came and literally did like plantings and stuff with them. But once COVID hit, all of that was wiped out. So the only thing that the child life specialists, who are like these amazing people that are like the cruise directors of the hospital, but also help explain all the procedures, help kids learn.
Who do we need to go after in the hospital? Who's not performing? Who do we need to go take down? Because that's what motivates me.
I think COVID.
COVID.
I think COVID just decimated everything. whether your stance on COVID, whatever it is, the idea of COVID decimated so many of these programs. And
so the people who planned the pandemic,
right? I think that they just needed help, right? So it started with, let's stock the hospitals. And then we were like, well, let's not stop there. Let's invite all the families that we support. For like, one of my biggest regrets is I never did professional like pictures with my kids. So when Liv died, we have very few pictures of like the four of us. So we got a bunch of photographers that donated their time, and we took holiday pictures for all of our families. So they're like on the sleigh, they're in the trees, and all of our families like sent us Christmas cards using the pictures from our event, which was so much fun.
That's awesome.
So we are always looking to partner with companies to help sponsor a family.
So talk about a couple of the sponsorships. Give us some levels, some numbers.
So we have, I think it's around $400 to sponsor a family. So we get Christmas presents or Christmas and July presents.
$400 to sponsor one family for the Christmas event.
And they'll get a huge package like filled with toys. We've got a sponsorship level that's about $1,500 that we're looking for to get some like carnival kind of games for the kids. We're looking to help do some
What about for the event at Aunt Ellen's?
So we're looking, Aunt Ellen's gives us the whole space for free. So any sponsorships that we're looking for is just really to add on. So like I said, like games to help pay for crafts, because we're a nonprofit, right? So every penny that comes out of our pocket isn't going to help support the research or the family.
Event.
Yep, games at the event, crafts at the event.
Well, Fireside is in for $1,500 this
Thank
Christmas.
you. That is amazing.
We are fully in, and I'm going to get a bunch of other people to get on that. I promise you.
That is unbelievable, because we want to make it a special day out for these kids and to be able to just forget.
Can I bring my son?
Of course you can. Yeah.
Family?
We open it to the public for people to come. We invite some local vendors there in a separate section, because especially when we started during the pandemic, I wanted to somehow partner with local businesses to help them as well. So we started working with a candle company called Brighter Days in Marlboro. And it was a great story. A mom that started making candles literally in her apartment, ended up with a storefront. We did a partnership with her. She made, I think we have like 500 of them, these Be the Good candles that she gave us a great rate on buying a huge amount of them. And we're helping spread her business, but also we're selling it for our merchandise to be able to give back to the foundation.
Grab some proceeds.
Yeah, so we really try and partner with local businesses and local companies.
So I don't mean to throw him out there, and I'm sorry, Jamie, because he's just a huge heart. He can't help himself, and a lot of people, when you become a giver, start to be too much of takers. Unfortunately, in this world, that's how it works. But have you reached out to Eat Clean Bro?
So I have to tell you a story, and I actually just messaged Jamie on Instagram a couple of weeks ago. So
I'm telling you, that guy's got a huge heart.
When Liv was sick, I did a lot of research, and there's a lot of research that talks about like the keto diet, so like no carbs, high protein, and when I tell you, like, we were exhausted, like, I couldn't think about what to cook or what to do.
Yeah, no brain capacity left.
And I don't even think that it was out there, but one of the teachers at Liv's school, I guess, grew up with Jamie and messaged him and said, listen, I have this family, like, can you just throw them a little gift card? And they ended up donating to our family $5,000.
Dude, shout out to Jamie and Eat Clean Bro. That guy.
I wrote them a letter, and like I just connected him on. I had followed Eat Clean Bro, but I think we were like just so in everything that I sent him a message like a couple weeks ago, and I was like, I don't know if you know this, but you sent us this gift card, and I cannot tell you what it meant to our family, not just to have like the support of a local business. But
I got chills. He's a good dude.
It took so much weight and pressure off of our family, because how do you get like an 8-year-old who's obsessed with chips and like bread to start eating? And we were able to like give her great, healthy
Man,
meals.
Jamie is like, so many people don't understand that guy. He comes from a different position. He's going to take that business. You know, it's already probably the biggest meal prep company in the country. And he keeps it real. He curses. He says what's on his mind. Like, what a fucking, like those stories, again, he didn't look for
and like they didn't
fame.
look
He didn't,
for
he didn't
anything,
throw it
and I
out
wrote them
there.
a card, and I remember like talking. I think it was like his secretary, and I wrote her like a note after Liv had passed, and like
See, I feel like my job is to give other people commercials, right? It's like, yeah, does this make Ryan Robbins money in the long term? It hasn't made me or Evan $1 yet, but it will, and I know that, and I've said that repeatedly. But I got to give these other people commercials. Someone's got to give these people commercial. People like this candle shop owner. People like Jamie. Shout out to Eat Clean, bro, doing that for your family.
They were amazing.
He's special. That whole organization, him and his wife, are all special.
it was amazing. And you know, it's so heartwarming to see like how people can step up.
$5,000
right?
is a lot of money to give away as a business owner.
It was unbelievable.
I'm telling you right now. People think that like, oh, you make, you do this, you do that. Jamie was on my show. He talked about doing, 30 mil revs. You want to take it to 50 mil revs. So what? He's got X amount of butchers on staff. He's got, employees. He's got trucks. How many trucks does Eat Clean, bro, have? Like, that doesn't mean that you just sit there in a cache of money, a pile of money. And a lot of people who don't own businesses don't understand that. So the local people who are getting involved and giving back to stuff like this, I'm telling you, I'm going to help you more than you think I am. And I'm saying this publicly because it holds me accountable.
Yeah, it's amazing. And it's helping like all of these families that need it, right?
I don't even know what I would do. I don't even know what I would do.
Nobody does.
450 grand donated to this type of research or families is super impactful.
And that's without all of so we have a program called our Unicorn Box program. So the inspiration behind that was Liv was on a clinical trial and she had to take this medicine that was disgusting. She was on a liquid formula. She wasn't allowed to eat 2 hours before, 2 hours after, and she would get anxious. She took it every Thursday, and Thursday morning she would wake up and she would be like, I don't want to take it. I don't want to do it. I don't want to take it. And it would be every Thursday night. And I had a girlfriend that would drop a care package off at our door every Thursday morning so she could wake up and be excited about something instead of waking up and dreading it. So through the foundation, I don't know, it just stuck with me. And I was like, well, let's do that. Like, let's send a smile to these kids. So we have something called the Unicorn Box program because we had to have Liv in there, right, with the unicorns.
So this is almost like a subscription box.
Yep. So kids sign up for their first box. We are in 28 states. We've got almost 80 kids enrolled in the program. So they got their first box, and it's broken down by ages, right? So we have a 0 to 2 that's
This is amazing. How many people work with you?
Us and a couple others.
Like how many hours a day are you putting in? Like,
I do 40 hours a week at least, but probably more. I really try and balance still being a mom, right? So I was working all day.
Your son.
Picked up my son, went to his Mosa Cup championship game for soccer.
Did he win?
He won, and he scored a goal and got 1 assist.
Damn, he's doing well.
He's doing well. So, but I work on the weekends. Like, my son goes to bed, and sometimes I'm up till like 12, 1 a.m. I give families my phone number, my personal cell phone number. So there was a family. Just
going through the hard time, like, just someone to call.
I was put in touch with a mom who lost her daughter right after Liv got sick. And I knew of her, didn't really know her. I called her, and she has become one of my closest friends now.
It's a connection that's like,
no one else gets it,
yeah.
Right? Unless you've been through it, unless you've walked in those shoes, you don't get it. And it's very hard to like come back to your old life now, Yeah, again, like when I get upset even like about like what this podcast is about, like recently I've talked a little bit about haters, and I don't like to throw it out, but like people don't realize like Ryan Robbins has got a heart of gold. I have a hardened exterior, but like what we're trying to accomplish here is helping people. And sometimes you run into these frustrations, these walls of frustration,
And to have that person you can reach out to that you know understands what you're going through is so impactful. And I don't mean to analogize what I'm doing anywhere near what you went through, but I mean, to have people like that and for you to turn around and now be that person for someone else, again, kudos to you and what you're doing. Bringing this to an end, this story is amazing. I probably could have cried like 3 times and tried to hold it back.
Welcome to my life.
Yeah, no, and I'm looking at you. I see the toughness in your eyes, but I see the sadness in your eyes. I do, and it's tough. And a couple people leading up to this today were like, "What are you talking about?" You know, it's cool. Like it's fucking cool. Like my friends are like, "What's Fireside doing this week?" And it's become cool. And I was like, "I'm doing this," and they're like, "Oh, that's hard."
And that's what I'm trying to change the narrative too, right? Because I talk about my girlfriends that have lost their children too, and we want to talk about our kids because we want their legacy to continue. We want them to be remembered.
Yeah,
you don't think I don't think about Olivia every second of every day.
She's a gangster.
I think about her all the time. So you sharing a story or someone being, sharing a story is not going to make me, maybe it'll make me cry, but I'm already thinking about it.
Yeah.
I try so hard to change that narrative now, right? And I think that's why there's not so much support with pediatric cancer because it's uncomfortable.
It's sad as hell.
It's sad. And after we lost Liv, I definitely know I lost a bunch of friends because I was told I'm too sad to be around, or it's a reminder, right, of what could happen.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
You lose a lot of people because it's a reminder.
Well, you're going through stuff, and I think some of that was maybe you and your husband naturally having to get away. I have a good friend, and I hope she doesn't mind, Leah Rabe. David Rabe was an inspiration. If you go and read, the ebook about what I'm doing and why I'm doing all this, some people think it's for money. It's not just for money. David was the person who reached out to me when I was in the bar after a boat race and said, "You just worked this whole bar." And I essentially just said hello to the friends that I knew there. Dave passed away, unfortunately, about 5 years ago now, a few weeks ago, in the Point Pleasant boat race. And for probably about 2 years, and Dave and I slightly drifted, but we still had such a core of friendship. Leah was kind of absent from everybody we knew, and I understood that it was probably hard for her to be around us, and some friends probably don't realize that in your world. It's hard to be around people that remind you of your daughter.
This year has been especially tough. Our school goes from kindergarten to 5th grade, so she should be graduating this year. And there are some days that I tell my husband, I'm like, you gotta go pick up Jack from school, because I can't see her friends coming out. I can't see, they all look so much older, and they're all getting ready for graduation, and I try and stay off social media a lot. I do it for the foundation, but if I had a choice, I would probably never go on it, because it's like a reminder, right, of my old life. You start out with,
you always have to check it out of your head, and that's what people don't realize when you go through trauma. I had some situations go on in my family, and I did the same thing. You got to check it out and move forward.
Yeah,
it's unfortunate.
And unfortunately, with this, I can never move, right? I'm always gonna have one foot in my old life and one foot in this life, my new normal, right? Because if I ever take my foot out of my old life, that's where Liv is. So I can't. I'm always doing that limbo. I'm always trying to figure out the best way to honor her and keep her with us, but not live in the past and move forward.
Yeah, I have no advice. I mean, that is such a tough situation, and I'm sure the people around you that you don't have as close of a relationship as you once did, I'm sure that they understand it as adults. I'm sure they do. So I'm not saying you do, but don't beat yourself up about it. So typically, what I do here is ask, what 2 business owners that you love, or you look after, or you look up to, or they've been impactful to your business. a 501c3 is a business. Don't ever get it twisted. You are running a business. You are working like a business owner. Christina, your friends, your board, you're working like business owners. You know, you're doing the subscription box. And after the show, I have some ideas for that I think we could blow it up. But give us two business owners. We talked about the candle shop. We talked about Eat Clean Bro and Jamie. Give us two other business owners locally that has been super impactful, either while you were going through it or has been super helpful to the organization.
So definitely one amazing business that supported us, and her, one of the owners actually joined our board probably 6 months ago, is Woody's Roadside Tavern. Unbelievable. They did a golf outing.
Where's Woody's at?
In Farmingdale.
Farmingdale, yeah, Woody's, yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's awesome. We love it there.
Yep.
But and they have a setup actually kind of similar to this. They've got the string lights now. They've got
Woody's, fill out the application, get on the show.
They're unbelievable. They've been so supportive of us, from donating to our events to hosting a golf tournament on our behalf last year, and they're doing it again this year. Letting us use their restaurant to sort toys. They've been unbelievable.
Yeah,
Like,
so the toy thing, like, give me some more information. Like, Kelly and I throw out toys in the garbage all the time because, again, we've heard since COVID, no one's taking toys. So let's coordinate on that.
Yep.
Give us another business owner.
I'm trying to think. There have been like so many great ones. Definitely someone that really has stepped up is our pediatrician. She donates to at least 2 or 3 of our events, and she actually created a unicorn room, which is like Liv's room now.
Wow.
Healthy Pediatrics of Old Bridge, but
Wow.
Dr. Trish, but don't go there because I don't want to have to wait for an appointment. No, just kidding.
Yeah.
She's just been like just a friend, and also just super, super supportive, like a smaller business. It's just her in the practice, but is always like stepping up to sponsor us. And
So it's going to sound weird how I kind of transition into this, but my wife makes me watch Hallmark movies. And what I like about Hallmark movies is a fire pit and bourbon. And I'm like, I can picture myself being in that little town. But there's always a story that leads to a community doctor. And I think a lot of doctors nowadays, and this is coming from Ryan, this is not on you, I think are bullshit. I think they follow a system that they've been brought into. To see a local doctor embedded in her community, getting embedded into a family situation that is as tough as yours was, is the doctors that I look up to. And I think there needs to be more of those doctors, and I hope someone out there hears me.
And then I have one more because
Give me another one. Give me another one. We're good. Let's do it.
Jersey Freeze is Katie
He's coming
and
on the
Matt.
show.
Matt is?
He's coming on the show.
I love Matt.
He's coming on the show.
They are the best. Katie's become like a friend of mine, but
they're good friends with Michael Scalfani.
Yeah, who owns CKO, right? So Katie, my husband grew up going to Jersey Freeze because he grew up in Manalapan. And then we used to drive just to go and get Jersey Freeze soft serve with my kids all the time. I've got hundreds of pictures of them like sitting in the lobby, sitting outside. And when Liv was sick, they did a fundraiser. Katie let Liv go behind the counter and make her own ice cream sundae, which, like an 8-year-old, that is the most amazing thing that you could do.
This is great.
As like an adult even, I'm like, that's so cool. You got to go behind Jersey Freeze. So after Liv passed, Katie called me and said, I have an idea. I don't know what you think. I want to do for Liv's birthday, do Liv's birthday shake. So it'll be the weekend. Liv's birthday is February 19th. It'll be the weekend of her birthday. Like, I'm like, all right, let's see how it goes. The first year we did it, I can't remember the dollar amount, but when I tell you, there were people lined up around the building, like twice around the building. People, actually ABC News picked it up. So there were people coming in and like spreading acts of kindness. So one person would come in and say, I want to pay for the 10 shakes that are going to be behind me. Someone else would come in and they'd say, well, I want to pay for my own shakes, but they've already been paid for. So why don't I pay for the next 5? And it was unbelievable. And we've done it every year ever since. This year they went even bigger. My son requested, he is obsessed with their sugar cookies. So Matt was ready to kill him. He requested that a cookie now is in the birthday cake shake. So there's like cookies with pink and purple sprinkles. They did ice cream sandwiches. Like, they have been the most supportive, amazing people.
I'm definitely having him on the show now. We have interacted. Mike has put us in touch. Mike also, CKO Mike, shouted him out. Jersey Freeze is coming on. But quick story on my end. We were at the cabin. My wife and another friend of ours, Phil and Kelsey, their daughter Charlie. We go there. It's simple. It's easy. It's loud. Right?
No, we go
you
there.
have a couple beers. And afterwards, I hit up Matt. I'm like, I'm going to go check out your ice cream shop, right? We love Hoffman's. We live here in Point Pleasant Beach, and they have great ice cream. Shout out to Hoffman's. And it was raining. It was a shitty night. I drive down there. There's a line.
Yep.
And I'm like, why is there a fucking line? It's cold. Like, damn, this ice cream must be amazing. I did not drive that night. I did have a couple bourbons and some beers. And I remember I had this thing that was just absolutely delicious that they got there. It was like, it came in like this, almost like a cupcake shape.
Oh, like the cupcake ice creams?
Yeah.
Oh my God, my husband could eat like a whole box of them.
Oh my God, it was like ridiculous. I'm like, Phil, like, put these things in your freezer. Like, I gotta go. So shout out.
They are the best.
To Jersey
They
Freeze.
are so supportive, not just of us, but our like whole community. They're like sponsoring little leagues and like sports teams, and they're just the best.
That's amazing.
people.
Shout out to Jersey Freeze. But listen, let's close this out. I'm in. Christmas thing, I'm in. Fireside America from Evan and I. $1,500.
That's amazing.
We vow to do that, and any way that I can help you, please reach out. Connector is what I'm best at, and I'm willing to do it and put energy into it because I know it comes back. Your story's impactful. I hope this podcast is impactful on people. I hope people realize that we are out here trying to help our fucking communities. And if we did that more, maybe we wouldn't have shit like we had this week, unfortunately, with the Texas shooting. And we're all in on you, your husband, your son, Jack. And I'm all in on Olivia. And I hope she knows that I got her back.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.